Building a family can be a complicated, messy, lonely, and sometimes heartbreaking process. But you don't have to navigate this challenging journey alone. Welcome to the AllPaths Podcast, where we support and celebrate all of the different ways there are to try to grow your family. I'm your host, Emily, from the nonprofit organization AllPaths Family Building, and today I'm delighted to introduce my new co-host, Leanne Moshe. You might know Leanne if you've attended one of our peer groups, but she's also a board member here at AllPaths and works in the fertility and family building space. To get to know Leanne and hear about her own family building story, you can actually go back and give episode 8 another listen. That was when she was our guest.
Thanks so much, Emily. I'm really excited to be here and to be part of the AllPaths podcast. It's really fun for me to be on this side of the microphone.
Well, we're excited to have you. And today we are going to be talking with Rachel Spekman about her journey. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here.
Oh, the honor is ours. Now, before we get into your family story, we would love for you to just introduce yourself to our listeners.
I am Rachel Spekman. I use she, her pronouns, and I live in Dorchester, Massachusetts. I am a therapist and a career strategist. I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I had a journey to build our family, which we'll get into. I also had a journey related to my career when that was happening, which helped me to transform my career, actually, which is now why I help others to do something similar. I love exercise. I love my dog. I love to travel. I love my friends and my family, and I feel very blessed by the life that I'm continuing to build.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to start a family? Where did it all begin?
Yeah. So I am married to a woman. So that was an immediate part of the story of how are we going to make this happen? As we explain to our children, now we don't have all the parts. And what happened is we started basically, as many of these things do, in an infertility clinic, which I was like, that's interesting. I haven't even begun, and I'm already in the infertility clinic. But it was actually a lovely experience because I won't name names of the clinic, but it was a lovely experience because, and I know everybody has a lot of different experiences with different clinics. It was almost like a PowerPoint workshop that was like, we want to help you build your family, and here's how we do it. And I was like, what? This exists? And that felt so cool at the time to understand that there was kind of this support for us. My body was not on board with that level of support, unfortunately. And what happened kind of by the numbers, I will share that, because I think it is significant to understand sort of where I thought it would be. I thought we'd go to that workshop and I would do an IUI and I'd be pregnant like the next day. I literally remember getting tea and being like, oh, I'm pregnant now.
Not an uncommon experience.
So I always knew I wanted to carry. My wife did not want to carry. We did have a few moments when it was not going as well. It was kind of like, well, why don't you just carry? That I would ask her that. A doctor would ask her that. And that became an interesting part of the journey as well. Sort of the assumptions that are made in the healthcare system. And yeah, so by the numbers, I ended up having 9 IUIs. And I was 33 at the time, and I was 34, I think. And the rule is you had to have 12 IUIs before you were eligible for IVF.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Was that insurance coverage wise? Was that clinic wise? Okay.
So I had 8 IUIs at the doctor's office, 1 at home, which they didn't count until they told me it was going to be. And then my doctor literally called me and said, I have good news for you. They changed the rule, or I kicked over to, I forget what it was. And all of a sudden I was eligible for IVF. So we did a round of IVF, which went quite well by the numbers. And I did a fresh transfer, and it worked. And 6 weeks into that experience, I started having some challenges with the pregnancy. And it turned out I had a uterine hematoma, which, for those who don't know, I didn't know what it was. It's basically an internal bleed that you can't really do anything about. And I ended up on immediate bed rest for 3 months, 4 months. And then I lost that pregnancy, unfortunately. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's really hard.
So it was probably the lowest of my life, I would say, just emotionally. And there was a lot going on at work at that time too. A company that I was very loyal to was not loyal to me when I was on. This is pre-Zoom too. So this is pre-pandemic. So there was like, we don't do remote work here. And I ended up reaching out to an employment lawyer, and it kind of got like messier than I had expected. And I left.
That's
Yeah,
awful.
it was a lot. I left.
It's just like, don't kick someone when they're down. That's
Truly.
unnecessary.
And my boss had also done IVF. It was just a wild experience. It was so completely wild and unexpected. It was very hard in the marriage, and there's just a lot going on. And then I took a break after the procedure. It's a D&E, not a D&C, because I was that far along. And then life is wild because we were seeing this wonderful therapist, and she recommended that we do a dream destination vacation on the due date of the pregnancy that I lost. Which I recommend to anybody.
Idea.
I'm getting the chills even as I
Yes.
say it.
So where was the dream destination?
Hawaii.
Nice.
And of course, on the due date, by the way, we were like, the plan was to be there. I was like, I am envisioning it. I was working with my therapist on it. There was a Boston blizzard that day. We were grounded. Like, it was, and I could say this with laughter.
Oh no.
I was like, well, I wasn't on the beach. I was shoveling a lot of snow. But that is life, isn't it? And so we did end up going out there. It was a really, really healing trip. And there was one moment in that trip in particular, I was like, I've given like 95% of my life and my attention and my social experiences to this. And I kind of had to release, like, I was like, this might not happen for me. I really had to kind of get to that moment. I literally know where I was hiking, and I had a few embryos, and I said, I'm going to give it another try. And I did. And that's when I got pregnant with my now son. The 7.
Mm.
He was born in 2018, and we knew we wanted a second. And when he was 2, we tried again, and it worked. And then at 8 weeks, I had a miscarriage for that one. And I had told everybody I was pregnant at that time. And I was devastated again. And I had, at that point, pivoted my career from the corporate world to the therapy world, which we can talk about. So here I was going through so much grief, supporting other human beings as they were moving through their lives. And that was a really unique, I'll call it clinical moment. And then I said I have to take a break, and I had to kind of actually reassess. We had 5 embryos total. So the first one was the loss. The second one was my son. Then we had the loss again. And then I was like, I'm going to go through these last 2 embryos. And if this might be our whole family. And then I got pregnant with my now daughter, who's 3.
So does that mean you still have an embryo on ice?
Well, I like to bring a sense of humor to things. My daughter was born January 1st. I knew we only wanted 2 children. I did not want to keep paying that monthly rental fee. On like January 2nd, literally, I was like, we do not want this embryo. I would like to donate. I had already explored donating it to somebody. I actually have a friend in France who was trying to get pregnant. I looked into international IVF transfers, which does exist. It's an
Hmm.
international,
It's a lot of paperwork for that.
lot of
Wow.
paperwork.
Wow.
I was like, maybe I'll just fly there with my newborn and give it to you. Like it's just like a package you can hand somebody.
Yeah, just have the vial in the diaper
Exactly.
bag with all the rest
Oh
of the
my God,
stuff.
we have
Yeah.
so many stories of my wife like traveling on the T with like this huge, liquid nitrogen thing, or this box that says, you know, basically bomb inside, it looks like. And people were looking at her. She finally found this like very
Hmm.
large bag to cover it up in because she felt so funny with that box. We ended up, I don't know what the term is, disposing or kind of completing with that embryo. Like that embryo does
Yeah.
not exist anymore.
Yeah. Embryo disposition is like
Yes.
the technical medical
Yes. And I
term,
have
but
so many stories of like, I called myself an Uber sperm driver often to like my friends. I mean, I had to try to keep my sense of humor through so much of it because, what I just shared with you, it was such a ride. Um, Everybody has their own ride, and that was my ride. But some people don't have a ride, and that's really hard.
Yes.
yes, those are the people I'm like, I don't understand. You just decided you wanted to get pregnant and you got pregnant? That is more confusing to me at this point than people who have the long, drawn out, like years
Mhm.
long story.
Mhm.
And something you said in the beginning that I think a lot of people can relate to is that sort of naive innocence that a lot of us go
Mhm.
into fertility treatments with, where you think, okay, well, now we're pulling out the big guns. Of course, this is going to work. And then it doesn't. And I think that's another reason why telling our stories and sharing is so
And I would
important.
listen to stories like this often, and I would always be like, do they end up with children? How do they end up? Like that sense of desperation of like, what is my story going to be? So and Sony who would be like, I can't believe I'm here telling the story. And now I'm that person in this moment. Of course, so much emotionally comes up, or so little. It depends on the person. Like it brings up a lot to the surface of other things. Our sense of control, our lack of control. And these are some of the things I work on with clients very often now.
So given that, it was a long drawn out process, there were lots of kind of
Mhm,
dead ends
mhm,
and
mhm,
reroutes. Where did you
mhm.
get support
Yeah.
during this time? Who were your biggest cheerleaders? Who kind of helped you
Yeah.
figure out those next
So
steps?
I'm going to answer that with what I tell people who are on any kind of journey where they're feeling stuck, which is we've got to get your board of advisors up and at it. And I really, especially people in careers or a transition or you're moving to a new city, great. Who's your board of advisors? Who can help you land there?
I love that way of like visioning it.
I know. I call it your BOA. I'm like, who's your BOA? Like, who's your board of advisors? Because I mean, think about all the companies that are out there. Nobody's running it by themselves. We are, I don't be too capitalistic, but we are running our own lives and we are like our own companies. And so we need to get this board of advisors. So I felt very fortunate. I mean, for me, it was my acupuncturist, who I now rent office space from as a therapist, which is so cool. And I never would have imagined that.
We can shout
Shout
out
out,
Erin, one of our
Erin!
group leaders.
It was
Woo!
100% Erin, and before her was Angie Bell, who you may or may not know.
Oh,
Love Angie.
yeah. We can shout out. Hi,
Hi,
Angie,
Angie up
up
in
in Maine.
Maine. I had a wonderful therapist, the one who gave me the recommendation, who's actually since passed. But I want to give her a shout out, Dr. Elaine Schwartz, who was amazing, really amazing. And and then I actually had this Jewish community that unfolded. And I got very connected to my rabbis at the time. And I got into a Jewish organization, or I got involved, I should say, into a Jewish organization that's sort of come and gone, but it's called Uprooted. And I actually worked with a miscarriage coach after what I call it, my big miscarriage. She has since shut her business too. So I just kind of, these people found me and I found them. Um, it was very hard because I'm a very, very connected friend person, and almost all of my friends had a kid at that point or were pregnant. And that caused nothing that's irreparable now, but it caused a very big challenge with me and my um then best friend, now very close friend, like still very good friend. But really like my best friend in the world, that was a very hard time. She got pregnant. She's also married to a woman. It kind of took her not as long, and there's a lot of comparison going on. So that was a hard part of the pain, is to feel isolated and disconnected from the people I'm really day to day closest to.
Yeah. The people that you expect would be your support network, and any other sort of family or life crisis or transition, all of a sudden now you're like,
And they were my support, but
I
they
need
were
new
also taking
people.
care of like newborns or 1-year-olds, or right, they were deep in wherever moment they had to be in. And so I that was really where I got introduced to the both and terminology that I use often. Like I can be both happy for them and sad for me, and I can hold both at the same time. And it's kind of odd because we think they're opposites. And it's like this real tenderness that I had to experience for, I mean, literally holding their babies, and how hard that was for me at the time. But how happy I was for them and their family. It was just so many different layers of emotions.
Yeah, I think that's
Hmm.
relatable for a lot of people. One of the things you mentioned was the humor. I think that that's another great way to sort of process and hold two emotions
Hmm.
at once. I've found that helpful in my own life and with the people that I support, but it sounds like that was something that you found some reprieve in as well.
100%, because some of these stories were like just laughable, like picking things up, dropping things off. There's a fee for this, there's a fee for that. And I said, I'm doing this. And I made like a little sperm cap for myself. I mean,
amazing.
and that was actually I
Nice.
had my newborn in the car at that time, and I had to pick up the other embryos because I knew we weren't going to use them for a while. So they're like, okay, we can ship it for you from Boston to Waltham. And I was like, I can drive it myself. Thank you. So I had to get like all these releases. I mean, was it probably worth it? I don't know, but it was also comical that like the hoops we
Mhm.
need to go through. I was like, these are my embryos. They're like, well, technically, we own them right now. And I had this great doctor. I want to give Dr. Grace Lee a shout out. And she was very challenging in several dynamics. One of them sums it up so well. She said, I mean, she was such a great, and she would be totally fine hearing this. She's so scientific, and but when I had my big pregnancy loss and I was in her office with Rob, my wife, and I was crying, and she just turned to me. And again, she's not the warmest person. She's since retired. And she turned to me and she said, they don't teach us emotions in med school, but I imagine this is hard for you.
Oh my.
And that was like literally her trying so hard to be empathic with me. And I was like,
That's the best response. Oh my God.
And that is why you have a BOA. So you go to other people for the emotional
Yes.
responses.
and she
Oh
said it
man,
like
that
with
is
so much, like you
spectacular.
could tell she was mustering up all of her tenderness towards me. Um, And I was just like, it is. Thank you, Dr. Lee. Thank you for saying it.
Oh man. That's
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and truly like it was the acupuncturist. And I think people are like, oh, I don't like needles. I don't, it's like, it's not, some of it's about the needles, but some of it's about like another person who can like hold this with you, because it's so much to hold. It's so much for you and your partner to hold. And then you have to go to work and function.
Yes.
I mean, it's just a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's why our whole organization exists, because it's a lot for people to hold by themselves, and you don't
Hmm.
have to if
Yes.
you have a community around you.
Yeah, and if you don't have other people hearing the stories and to sort of mirror back, yes, I'm
Hmm.
feeling this too, you can
Yes, you
feel very
really
alone.
can. And I did do several support groups, and I will work with clients now, and I can say it can be a mixed bag, because sometimes you go there and you see there are people who've been trying for 7 years, 10 years. And then you say, "Oh my, w- is that going to be me?" And then you can kind of blow it up in your head a little bit. What I will say is I love this quote I think it's Jewish by nature, but it's joy shared is joy multiplied, and grief shared is grief divided.
I love
And
that.
so the
Yeah.
space, if we can, I'm almost talking to you like I'm talking to a client or to myself at the time, if I can get there and not get latched into everybody's story, but understand we're grieving, we don't know each other, and we're collectively grieving something that we thought would be some way, then we can actually be supporting each other.
That's beautiful. Such a perfect way to illustrate why you need people around you who get it when you're going through something like this. Were you working as a therapist at all before
Not
this
at all.
kicked
Nothing.
off? Or so this was like
So
total
here's what happened,
turn for
kind
you.
of part two of the story, which I was a teacher for the first 7 years of my career, and then I pivoted and I was in the nonprofit, like youth development space. And while I was at that nonprofit, I started doing an MBA part-time because I was like, I want to be running this nonprofit. Like that was kind of my MO at the time.
Yeah.
The MBA kind of showed me that I really love operations. I love project management. And I had actually been in the startup space when all of this started. So I loved it. I was doing education. I was doing all these things, mentorship. So fast forward to when I had my 7-year-old, I went back to work and basically like 6 months into being there, I was like, oh my gosh, this like day-to-day work feels quite empty actually. And that really scared me because I was like, wait, I have my child. Like that was the goal. That was the goalpost.
Yeah.
And I actually remember my late therapist, Dr. Schwartz, being like, just enjoy your child. Like, don't make another move right now. Which is actually kind of how I knew I had outgrown her a little bit because I basically sat with what I call like that little whisper. By the way, the name of my coaching company is called Made for More Coaching, which I feel is relevant in this moment because I was kind of navigating some toxic work environments at that time, not when I had my son, but as I said previously with the bed rest. And I sat with on that idea that I'm feeling less than fulfilled. And then I started working with my own career coach. And she basically said, when you talk about your fertility journey, you get so deep, you get so moved. When you talk about work, it sounds so surface. And it was actually her mirroring that back to me and me realizing, oh my gosh, maybe there was something there and realizing how much support I had gotten and how much I had been cared for. So I say I would sit down with a company that I was kind of coaching and I would say, how are you and how's your company? And they would start talking about how they were and then they would start talking about their company. And I was like, actually, I care a lot more about how they're doing than how their company's doing. And kind of fast forward, I was kind of figuring out, okay, what am I going to do next? I thought I was going to be a fertility, I looked into being a geneticist. I was so moved by my like 3.5 year plus journey and all of the twists and turns I just told you about. And I ultimately, then the pandemic started and I ultimately chose to go back to social work school. And actually it was funny because I said, I think I want to be a fertility therapist. And my advisor in social work school said, great. So we'll give you 2 internships that are not fertility related so you can experience like the breadth of this field. And I was annoyed at the time, but now I totally get it because who knew that my fertility journey was like this foray into a whole nother world of healing, really.
So do you have a focused community now
Yeah.
with your work? Do you see fertility patients plus?
I do actually. So so I'm now an independently licensed therapist. Fast forward, I left my full-time job. I said largest adult calculated risk of my life. And I made a 5-year financial plan we did together. And I left my senior director title to become an intern again. And not like woe is me, but I say that like the ego really goes on a journey when we're making these changes for ourselves, including the title and the salary and the community and all of it. And And I went to school for 2 years. I did do a fellowship in women's mental health after school and thought I was going to focus on that. But I've actually kind of realized that I don't actually really enjoy being niche. I actually enjoy being a little bit broader than that. So what I focus on clinically is what I call identity transformation. So, and I basically kind of identify 5 core areas where you're going through a major identity change. And it includes infertility or becoming a parent, because that's also your identity really shifts, separation
That's
or
huge. Yeah.
divorce, grief, unexpected or expected. Sometimes it's starting grad school or kind of a major professional move. And then the 5th is, I would say, like an unexpected career change, like being let go or early retirement or something like that. And that kind of gives me this breadth where I can work with people in different modalities on what does it mean for your, as you said earlier, Leanne, like you think it's going to go this way and it's actually going this way. How do I help? How can we reconcile the difference?
Yeah, I love that. It's the transitions of all of those, with if not thought through or approached thoughtfully, can be really disruptive and kind of shake you at your
Yes,
core.
exactly. And what you have control over, what you don't. I mean, there's so much to it. Your support
Mhm.
system, your daily functioning. There's so many mental health tools that help through each of these or can help.
With all the knowledge that you have now working with people who are going through these transitions, like, is there anything that you, looking back, be like, oh, I could have used myself telling me this,
Okay,
back when we were navigating everything?
this is like wilder than fiction. When I had my big pregnancy loss, my big miscarriage, we had some very close friends locally. And that night they said, come over and we want to take care of you tonight. I was engorged. I was very, 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 very low. And I sat and had a glass of wine with frozen blueberries on my chest with these friends. And they just took care of me. Fast forward 2 years later, that couple gets divorced. And we now live in that we bought their house.
Oh, wow. That's a like weird full
And in the
circle moment.
backyard where I was mourning the loss is now where I play with my kids.
Oh, wow.
I know.
That's really beautiful. It was the place that you felt so like comforted and supported is now
It's
your home.
literally our home. And I could never have envisioned any of that. I still can't believe it. I mean, and I live here. I'm literally looking at the backyard right now. I mean, it was wild. So I guess that's one thing I would say is we never know where anything's going to take us, including that moment to this moment. And it's definitely not that every moment in my life is perfect now. I mean, that's definitely not for sure.
I love that story though, how it emphasizes the sort of the value of our
Mhm.
village and the people around us. What is some advice you would give to other people about supporting the people in their lives who may be on a difficult journey?
I think a lot of this journey is you don't know what you need. And I think giving a person who is, I mean, and now, of course, I support people professionally and in my own life, people who are on their own journeys. I'm kind of a resource for several community people, we'll call it that way. Giving the space, time, energy to validate the pain, even if you'll never get the pain, is really because there are no words. There is nothing. It's someone. It's again removing that sense of isolation from the person and feeling as much as you can that I don't know what I'm being the person. I don't know what you're going through, and I love you, and I'm here for you, and you can talk to me, and I won't judge you, and I will support you. and you can call me next week and we can do it again, or tomorrow, or whatever, right? So just that consistency and that, I would say, empathy, or like understanding of empathy, because it is so. I remember sitting in like all these IVF waiting rooms and being like, this is such, it's just such a weird journey where you want something so badly. You can't, and you've had this vision of what your life would be like, and it especially, I mean, the high achievers among us, it's like, I study for the test and I get a good grade, and I do this and I get my licensure, and all of a sudden you can't achieve this thing. And then you're watching everybody else around you achieve it. It's so hard to explain the levels of what it actually is and isn't to someone.
I love that. And oftentimes, if people haven't been through this before, or even sometimes if they have, like their first instinct is to try to jump in and fix it or say, quote unquote, the right thing that will make it feel better. Like there, like you said, there is no right thing. But people still kind of give into that impulse to be like, oh, I'm going to say something that I think is maybe going to be helpful, but it just ends up completely invalidating the experience that the person is having. So just, even if you don't understand the circumstance, understanding how to empathize with someone in a way that validates what they're going through is so, so important.
There were so many times where people was, it's all going to work out. And I know somebody who had a loss, and you want to hear these stories of hope. That's what's so hard, is like, you need this hope, of course. And I think understanding like, what, I know I don't know how to support you. How could what I say actually hurt you by accident? And if I do say that, can you let me know? So really having that openness, which of course requires like a ton of vulnerability and like a ton of rupture repair kind of orientation to the relationship, which we don't, we're all busy. We have like, it doesn't always happen that way, but especially with your marriage, your closest people, you're bored. You're bored of investors.
Yes, absolutely.
So, is there anything that you wanted to share either about your own story or about the work that you do now that we haven't asked about?
So I'm white and my wife is black. And we were very determined, I would say, to try to get a black donor because we wanted the children to look like the two of us as much as possible. We asked friends, we asked cousins, we asked family, and we did that whole thing. A lot of humorous stories. I'm like, I did not know at like 11 o'clock at night I'd be asking for sperm and IHOP, in the middle of Virginia. And then the person like was like, no, thank you. I was like, I'll take another pancake. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so we use California Cryobank, and we still joke about this too. It's ridiculous. Like, at the time they weren't showing photos. You had to pay for the photos of the baby photos. Uh-huh.
Oh,
Right. They've
interesting.
since changed that. So before you could only see their like grayed out screen. I don't know, Emily, looks like you know what I'm talking about, where it's almost like a blank avatar. And you
Like a
could
little
click and it
silhouette.
would say lookalikes. And you would click on like almost any black sperm donor and it would be like, "Oh, it looks like Chris Rock." And it was like, the next one looks like Chris Rock. We're like, what? Like, how does everybody look just like Chris Rock?
Oh God. Mhm.
And then you click on like a white donor and you'd be like, so many, like, talk about like who's making these tech decisions and like all kinds of things. And that was just wild. And we went through several different donors before we ended up with the one, because I also had like a few medical things come up, and we actually had to find a donor that would do extra testing for me. It's the largest sperm donor bank in the country, and yet you click the black filter and it's wild. So I guess what I want to share is there are so many nuances to everyone's story. There are so many nuances. And we kind of kept searching and kept searching. And so keep on keeping on, for lack of a better word. Like, I don't know. But yeah, just like, if you are a same-sex couple listening to this, if you're a mixed race couple, even if you're not, whatever you're building, there is at least this has been my experience. There were so many times where I was like, is this real? Is this really the pool of everyone? And so I don't know. I don't even know if I have advice except it's nuanced.
I think that's why, because it is so nuanced and we really can't imagine what we are going to go through or what someone else is going through, why showing up to someone and saying, I'm here for you, to listen and to be empathetic and have whatever you need and not be suggesting all the answers. We can't have the answers. We hear so much from the trying to conceive community where it can be really hard when someone says, well, why don't you just? And whatever comes after the word just is probably not helpful because we don't have the nuances. We don't know what's going on. I don't think anyone could have imagined you would have encountered those difficulties or obstacles or moments of just trying to select the right donor.
And the systems are set up in such a way sometimes that they're adding unnecessary barriers that, again, unless you have like intimate experience with that exact situation, you just,
oh my gosh,
you don't.
That was the other thing. There was a
understand.
progesterone shortage at one point, and I had to call like 6 different clinics. And I thought, I kept thinking, oh my gosh, like I speak English. I have a job where I can make a phone call. I have these resources. This is so hard. Because there's a lot of admin to all of this sometimes. That's something I really want to help normalize too, is there's so much admin. And anyway, it's a very specific word, but that also takes its own brain space. I will share, again, in a wilder, we went through all these donors. I was like, that already looks like Chris Rock. And this has been really cool, which is that we have connected with some of the diblings, the donor siblings. We have a WhatsApp group. We actually did a reunion with the kids, or we did a gathering. I mean, it's been this unexpected, incredible community. And as each of our kids have kind of run into their own issues or celebrations, the board of advisors has grown in a different direction. And that's been really, really, like, again, beyond my wildest dreams of something I could have expected. And also what it's like to raise a mixed race child or children.
Yeah. And that's really lovely I mean, yes, this is still a challenge once you're on the other side and you're parenting, but, parenting donor conceived children, parenting mixed race children, it's not without its own challenges. And I'm really glad that your community is starting to grow and adapt and kind of rally around those new nuances.
I feel like I've shared everything about my life.
Yes. No, it's been so lovely. Thank you so much for sharing all about your own family and for sharing about the great work that you're doing, helping people through their own transitions, whether they're family building related or not. Yeah, no, it's been really nice.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Yeah, there was so much in this episode that I think other people are going to be able to relate to and potentially be inspired by.
Thank you. I hope so. And thank you so much for having me. And I didn't know where my journey was going to take me, and it's wild to think about where I am now. So, thank you. And thank you to your community, because I did several events with AllPaths, which was then Resolve. I mean, just thank you to the work that you're doing, because there's, like I said, there's so much happening behind the scenes for support. And anybody who's listening, I really encourage you and to try to get some support. We don't have to do this alone.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week with more family building stories and resources. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so that you never miss an episode. And follow us on social media at AllPathsFB or visit our website, allpathsfb.org, to learn more about our work. And please help spread the word so that anyone who is struggling to grow their family can join the conversation. AllPaths Family Building is so grateful to the members of our circle of support. And today we want to recognize and thank bronze sponsor Boston IVF. Your partnership is vital to our ability to provide emotional support, education, and advocacy that is open to anyone who is struggling to grow their family. And to the entire AllPaths community, thank you for being here. It's an honor to walk with you on your journey.